And give everyone a chance to join as and when. Ready to kick off, Imad? Or should we wait a couple more minutes?
One minute. Right.
Right, let's crack on. A very warm welcome to all of you for joining. Thank you very much for taking the time. My name is Sam Bear, and this is my colleague Imad Malik, who is the Director of ERP Products for Bottle ERP. So today we'll be going through the Cask to Customer Sales Simplified with Bottle ERP. So what will you gain out of today's session? So we will be going through the streamlining of your order management, how to drive that revenue into growth, how you can simplify your customer storage management, improve your financial control from all of these legs, accelerate your invoicing, and enhance your fulfillment operations whilst staying compliant with your duty and LPA requirements. As previously alluded, my name is Sam Bear. I'm the Bottle ERP Sales Manager. This is Imad. Imad, would you like to do a brief introduction, please?
Yeah, afternoon, everybody. As Sam said, I'm the Director of ERP Products. So I deal directly with all our customers on the implementation and the support side.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Any questions at all, please do not hesitate to jump in and ask. There is the chat function at the bottom, so just put all of your questions in, and the more the merrier. Please do fill your boots. So why NetSuite? So NetSuite is a cloud-based system with 40,000 customers globally. It's upgraded twice a year, so you're never version locked, unlike some other systems out there on the market. Bottle ERP is built within that NetSuite platform and therefore naturally upgrades in parallel. So NetSuite at its core is a finance system. So what you can see in the wheel here is all of the functionality that you get. So you get a full end-to-end platform from lead through to cash. Quite literally, your CRM, manufacturing, production, finance, all under one platform, which is why we've built the Bottle ERP within this solution. So what makes us different? We are an industry-specific ERP solution. So it's a business management tool. So you get everything that you can see here, plus additional functionalities that for example, your bottling, or for example, your cask management, your warehouse management solutions. So quite literally end-to-end grain to glass, sorry. So the full process, when we say grain to glass, we quite literally mean end to end. So this is your component management with all of your SPs, your spirit production, cask management. It's normally pretty admin heavy, sample tracking, through to your bottling, warehouse management, your LPA tracking, and your HMRC reporting and integration. So everything is all connected in one live, up-to-date, always active solution. So Bottle ERP brings all of those essential business systems and combines everything so it's live, so you can make active decisions with knowledge. In addition to that, sorry, lag there. In addition to that, we also have WMS Go, which is the warehouse management solution, which is built for distilleries. So you can use all of your tablets, you can use everything, and everything is basically, in essence, everything's clean, everything's data friendly, it's solution led. So why Bottle ERP? You can see here some of the stats that we've provided, and kind of gives you a bit of an insight as to what your financial close time could be if you went with the solution, your go live, the timeline it takes from start to finish, and the reduction in the manual data and entry processes. Everyone likes to save time. So here you can see a quote from one of our clients. Bottle ERP provides us with a unified and insightful view across the business, empowering us to further enhance efficiency and uphold the high standards that our customers expect. Thank you very much. Imad, over to you.
You, Sam. Right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. So as Sam said, we're going to go through quite a few different elements, from bottle sales to cask sales to some general financial management elements, and then we'll take a look at WMS Go as well, our handheld solution. So I'm logged into the system. The system, once I log in, shows me a dashboard, which is a hierarchical view of all the key bits of information that I'm interested in based on my role. And I'm just using a very generic role today. So I've just got some very generic reminders around assets, production and process, LP in, out, storage revenue, bulk stock, etc. And as I said, it's all completely configurable depending on what you want to see. And this is normally configured based on the role itself that you're using or the job you're doing. We're going to jump straight in and have a look at some of the financial elements and the financial controls that you get. So to start off with, we're going to look at the customer record. So the customer being all the information that you need around the customer, the address, any sort of documentation that is required, delivery preferences, classifications, etc. But as Sam mentioned, NetSuite and Bottle ERP are a finance system at its heart. So to allow us to control those elements, we've also got financial elements and financial control. So under finance, we can see credit limits that we can apply to customers. If we're working with that customer in an under bond state, any sort of balances that we've got with that customer, and also if it's a pro forma. So do we require a deposit up front or not? What that allows us to do is control our orders to make sure customers are paying on time, make sure you are getting deposits where you need to. So if you're doing any sort of private tasks, for instance, you might be taking a deposit up front. You allow control of that entire process. And because it's in one system, you're managing your stock, your production, your purchasing, etc. within one system. You're always getting a view of everything live and real time. So using the customer itself and using the customer information, we can then create an order. So if we go to a sales order I've got here, so I've selected my customer. We said we're using it in a certain currency. So this customer is only set up for British pounds. But if I was working in other currencies, euros, USD, etc., we could transact in those as well. And then I've got some classification, so ways I can segment later on. So sales channel, location of where I'm getting my stock, classification of the order source or the area in the world, for instance. And then the duty status as well. First order we're going to take a look at is a bottled sale. So that's my main information, my item, my customer, the classifications, the locations, etc. At the bottom, I can then select my item or items, depending on how many things I'm selling. So if I just search for my bottled product that I've got within the system, what we'll see is that it will show me my Whiskey 99, my bottled version of this product. Second. Right, selected my Whiskey 99 bottle. That's then brought through all the information for this item as well. So the available stock, how many I'm potentially selling, if I'm selling it in a certain unit, because we do support units of measure as well. And depending on the units I've set up, it'll then change the availability. So this is selling individual bottles. So I've got 9,000 bottles, or I've potentially got 1,500 cases with a little bit extra on top. So if I just say I'm going to be selling 2 cases of 6 at a certain size and a flavor based on the product, which again is further classifications that I've set up. If I had a description, it'll show the description on there, and then the pricing and how the pricing works. The system allows you to do sales pricing in lots of different ways. You can do price levels, as I've got here, where I can have a base price. I can have a price that might be discounted or marked up, in this case, based on the base price. I can allow custom pricing, quantity price breaks, promotion pricing, customer specific pricing, group pricing, any sort of sales pricing you can think of, the system will support. And that allows you to make sure you're selling at the right value. And if you want to allow people to do custom transaction values or not, you can choose that as well. So I'm going to keep this quite simple. I'm going to say I'm going to use my base price. So 336 per individual case of 6 that we're selling. We're going to add that to the actual order. I'm going to save it down. Systems then going to do a couple different things based on my product and based on the setup I've got, based on the location, how the customer is set up. It's then going to determine, okay, what is the duty status? What should it be? Is this a duty paid stock? Is it under bond? Is it duty payable? What's my duty liability? What's the estimated LPA for this transaction? Because I haven't selected my actual batch I'm sending out. And it will use all that information to give us a summary of that at the top of the transaction itself. I'll see that in a second. And it saves. What it's also doing is it's collating all the information on the top level, but it's also collating that at the line level as well. So the line, what we'll see is that the system is going to show me the LPA per line, the duty rate that it thinks it should be applying per line as well, and then going from there. So I've got my sales order with a sales order number against this customer that I can now transact with. I've got my estimated LPA for this transaction. It's determined it's a duty payable transaction, and my estimated duty as well is on there. Against the line, I can see all the information that I saw before when I was filling in the order around the quantity, the case of 6, the price. But if I scroll across, I can also see my estimated gross profit. And I could have seen this before I saved it, and I can see this at the line level, or I can see this at the total transaction level as well. And you can have reports off the back of that, or approval processes off the back of that. And if we keep scrolling, we'll see that my estimated LPA has been worked out, the estimated duty rate that I believe should be applied based on the strength of this liquid, the estimated duty is all being calculated as well. And that's my base sales order. Off the back of that, because I've set this customer up to be a pro forma, I've got now the ability to go through the pro forma process. I can send out a pro forma email. I can print off the document, and all documents from the system are completely configurable depending on how you want it to work. I can try and approve the pro forma. There's lots of different ways to manage this process itself. So if I go through to here, I've got my order, I haven't set a billing address, but it's just an example of the PDF that you can get. And as I said, they're all completely customizable. Shows me my item, it's a fairly basic one, and then it shows me my total. The deposit due is 50%, and it highlights that to the customer itself at the end. From there, I can then go through and approve, create a deposit for the actual pro forma. And again, this would normally be split responsibility. So it might be someone in finance confirming that the orders come through. And then once it comes through, it can then be set up in the system. So if we go through to create pro forma deposit, that'll then take us to the deposit screen where we can confirm how much has been paid. So in this case, we're going to say that actually they paid a little bit more than 500%, 50%. They paid 500. So what that'll allow us to do is that will allow us to put it on there, link it to the sales order, link it to the account that it's coming into, put all the key information in there, as well as potentially the payment method as well. and then I can save that down. Because that's linked to the actual order, that'll then notify the process that my pro forma has been paid, and that can then send a notification to the sales rep, the user, whoever put the order in, that the order can now progress, or it can be set up so that the system can automatically approve the order. So as soon as the pro forma deposit is met, the order is approved automatically, and then it can continue to the next stage itself in the process. If we go back to my order, got my deposit, and now I can see I've got my pending fulfillment, and I can also see my related records for my customer deposit. And if I had set auto approval, I could approve it, or I can approve it from the approve pro forma button, which then allows me to take it to the next stage. I can also take all the documents from this sales order as well. So I can either get this from the sales order, or I can get it from my shipment, or the item fulfillment as we call it. And that's the commercial invoice. So I've got an option to print the commercial invoice in a PDF format. I've also got the option to export it to Word using the exact same format. And as I said, we're same with the pro forma, the format, the information that is shown is completely configurable. You decide what information you want to see, what format it looks like, so that the design is all the same. So I've got a fairly basic one as an example, which just shows me it's commercial invoice for this order, for this customer, the key information around the item itself, the commodity codes, country of origin, and a summary for the various different bits that I've got on there as well. So as I said, I can get this from the sales order in a PDF, or I can get it in Word as well, depending on how I want to do it itself. So that's my bottle sales order. We can go through and ship it and fulfill it, and we'll have a look at that in a minute when we go through WMS Go. But before we go from there, we'll have a look at a different type of order. So we're going to look at a cask sale, so filled cask. So if I go to Bottle ERP, sales, sales order, filled cask, that's going to take me to a slightly different screen where I can then fill in my information for the cask itself. So on here, I'm going to select my order customer. So I'm going to select Queen. And that's going to then pull through key information around that customer, the setup, etc. Select the location where my cask is located, or casks, could be several. That's then going to use that information to find the available casks. I'm going to choose a currency we're going to work in with this customer. So this customer has multiple currencies that we can work in. I can then see the list of casks, which I can search for certain casks on there using any of the information, certain batch information, etc. But let's say we're taking the first one. We can then put in the key information around this. So how do we want to sell this? So we can sell it per LPA. So we can see it's got 170 LPA. Strength based on last time we checked it, 68%. So let's keep it simple, and let's just say we're going to charge £15 per LPA. That's calculated out as 2,550. I can keep it as simple as that and just sell this directly and then generate an order, and that will generate my sales order directly saying we're shipping it and it's being sold straight away. Or I can use this screen to also do private cask sales, storage sales, where we've got a cask customer buys it from us, and then we're going to recognize that revenue over a certain period as well. So I can then say, okay, out of that 2,550, what portion of that is my storage? So I can say 500 is that storage. I can also then apportion out my insurance. Let's say 250 is insurance. And then am I taking into account of that total value, the bottling revenue? So do they have to bottle with us potentially if they want to get rid of their casks? I can say again, just £50 as an example. And what that's going to do is it's going to use this information to generate an order based off of the sales revenue, the insurance, and the bottling. These three values will be recognized over the length of the period. So in this account, I've got it set up as we provide 10 years storage with our private cask sales, for instance. So that 500, the 250 will be recognized over the 10 years because that's the service we're providing. And then the bottling revenue, because I've said we have some, is going to get recognized right at the end of the process itself, giving us that total. So we'll recognize a certain portion up front. We'll recognize a certain portion as we go through the many years that we've set up based on the process itself. Once we confirm, we get taken to this screen where it's just going to generate the order in the system for us. So Blue Peter style, I've got an example order that we can take a look at instead, just so we don't have to wait for the screen to process, that we can see the information has gone through. So it's created an order for that customer, filled in all the key information, and it's marked it in this case as a private cask sale, because I've said that we're actually going to store it for the customer. Against the line, it's automatically added all the key information around the item, so the actual liquid that's inside it, the ABV, the rate that we're charging, the cask information, the batch information, all the way down to how much revenue we're tracking at each single stage. From here, we can then mark it as fulfill and bill because we are storing it. We're not actually sending it anywhere. We're just going to potentially move it from one warehouse to another warehouse. We can fulfill and bill it and then invoice the customer for it directly. That'll then recognize the revenue, as said, over the certain duration. And that's the two different ways of doing sales orders, the main two ways. You can do sales orders for lots of other things, of course, but that's the two main ways. You've got your bottling sales orders, where you can create a direct sale for your different bottles and you can ship them out, and we'll have a look at the shipment in a minute. You've got your cask sales, where you can choose if you're actually selling the casks and sending them somewhere, or actually you're selling it, but then you're storing it yourself. And then you can go further as well from there. So if we go back to our customer record, what we have is we have the ability to take that a little bit further, where actually, for instance, in my example, I'm storing this for 10 years. Let's say the customer after the 10 years decides they still want to keep it on site and they want to get you guys to track the storage for it. You can set up storage schedules per customer as an overall to decide how much they have to pay for that storage itself. So on the customer, I've got this cask storage tab where I can see I've got a certain storage record set up for this customer. So if we have a look at it, we can see that it's a daily charge for £75. So if we have a look at this screen, daily charge for £75 against this customer with a specific start date for a specific type of cask or vessel itself. And this could be overarching, so it doesn't have to be a specific customer price. It can be system-wide per location, or you can have customer-specific pricing as well and have certain durations. So you might have a unique price for this year, but then the price is getting increased next year, for instance. But what this allows you to do is, if we go back to my dashboard, I just click on the home button, is what it allows us to do is to automatically generate storage invoices for those. So for every cask that you're storing for this particular customer, it's then going to generate an invoice listing out the cask, listing out the storage revenue, the start date and end date that you're charging them for as well as the amount. So if you have 1,000, 2,000 casks, for instance, 10, 20 casks that you're storing for customers, the entire process of generating those invoices monthly, quarterly, bi-weekly, depending on how you've got it set up, is all automated based on the schedule that you set up. The system will automatically collect that. And if you're not just charging for storage, you're charging for insurance as well. And they're two different rates depending on one's daily, one's weekly, for instance. You can do that and it'll consolidate the invoice into a single transaction. So the customer, for instance, every month will just get an invoice for their 5 casks that they're storing with you that list out the 5 casks, the storage, and then the insurance as well off the back of it. Completely automated, no manual intervention required, unless you want to be manually control some of that process. And that's the brilliant thing with the system, is we've tried to give it a lot of automation, but every single point you can choose how far you take that automation. Do you want certain manual control or do you not? And then because we're tracking that, we can also generate reports around expected revenue for our different customers. We can look at reports around customer-owned casks, so we can see casks that we're storing. We can also see the revenue off the back of it. So any recognition that we're going over those 10 years in my example, we can see that information as well. So we can see all that key information within the system, again, completely automated without me having to get involved in any of the process itself. So far we've gone through the different types of sales. So we've gone through bottling sales, we've gone through cask sales, we've talked a little bit about the commercial invoice and the pro forma process itself. As I said, those documents aren't the only ones you can get out of the system. On the sales side, you can get a packing list, picking lists, order confirmations. You've got your standard financial transactions, such as your invoice, your credit note process, etc. When you get to invoicing, you can do invoicing on a one-by-one basis, or you always have the ability to invoice on a mass way as well. So there's the bill sales order screen, where we can then look at a list of all our sales orders that are currently open that potentially need to be invoiced, and we can do this on a one-by-one basis, or we can mark them all and the system can generate them all. Or if we want to automate it, we can get the system to generate the invoices and then we can review them, or we can take it further and get them to be emailed out. The level of automation is completely up to you, depending on how far you want to take it. But the system allows you to reduce those manual admin jobs that are there just to process the information and to automate them as you go instead. So that's the main bulk of everything that we're going to look at. So the next bit we're going to look at, if I just close all this down, is Mesco. So Mesco is our mobile warehouse solution. It's designed, as Sam said, to do lots of different things, from your spirit production to your cask management. So your regauging, your sampling, your liquid transfers, your re-racking, your vatting, to moving things in certain warehouses and be able to track where your different casks are, your vessels are in your warehouses. And then you can do more of the standard stuff as well. So you're receiving in your stock. So if you're producing your own spirit, your grain, your malt, if you're just bottling, your bottles, your labels, etc., depending on what you're doing. And then all the way down to the sales side itself, where you're shipping out information, you're shipping out orders, sorry, and then being able to track that within the system itself. So we're going to flip over to Mesco. So this is me representing it on my desktop. But as Sam mentioned, this works on any sort of device. It's device agnostic, so it works on Apple, Android, Windows, any sort of generally modern device. As long as it's in the last 10 years-ish, it'll work, be it a tablet or a phone. And the idea is you use scanners, or you can type things in as you need to. And again, we've left it to you guys to decide how you want to do it, but enabled multiple ways to deal with it. And as I mentioned, it does lots of different things, from your spirit production to being able to track all your different spirit stages, to being able to track your vessel movements, your container management, your regauges, samples, your vessel tracking itself, your receiving of stock, your standard inventory movements, your bin transfers, your adjustments, etc., all the way down to your picking of your orders, be it a single order or a multiple order. And because this is our own process, we have complete control over it, and we're always trying to make this as simple as possible for everybody. And the system is linked directly within the actual core account itself. And what you're seeing is live information both ways. So you're seeing live information on handheld as you're walking around the warehouse, as you're walking around the distillery. And so is the users on the actual application on the internet. They're seeing live information about what you're doing. Have you picked orders? Have you received orders? Have you done shipments, etc., and how that works. So we go through a couple of these options. So if I go to manage, that's just going to take me to more of a manager's view of certain processes. So I have the ability to keep this super simple and just go, okay, I'm going to start picking sales orders potentially. Or I can add a little bit more of control and process on it and go, actually, my warehouse manager, for instance, is going to pick certain orders to be dealt with first because they're on a short delivery time, or actually the courier comes earlier in the day, so they need to be picked first. So what I can do as a manager, in instance, I can go through and I can create a wave. And then this is, as I said, it's more if you want certain control. So that'll show me all my open orders that are currently pending picking that haven't been assigned to anybody. So I can go through and I can pick a single order, and it's just general information around the actual order itself. There's no detail at this point because it doesn't really matter at this point. It's more just about number of lines that need to be picked. So I can pick one or two, or I can mark them all, depending on how I want to do it. And I always have the ability to search for certain transactions. So let's mark 3 of them. From there, if I click submit, I've now got an option of how do I want to deal with it. Do I want them to be single order picked? So every single order will have its own picker potentially, and they can all be picked in parallel. Or do I want it to be multi-order picked? So the picker doesn't know what order it's for. They just know, actually, I need to get 10 bottles of this, 20 bottles of that, and then take it all back to the packing station, depending on how I want to do it. So if I put that into pending, and let's just say it's going to be a multi-order pick for those 3. So we submit that. That's going to take those 3 sales orders that I picked, and it's going to create a single wave with an ID of 12. From there, if I just go through and manage that wave, that's then going to allow me to assign it to someone. So all I've done is I've gone through and I've said, okay, I've got 3 orders. I need them shipped out. Who do I want to now go to? I can pick one person. I can pick multiple people. So if I pick someone at the top, then I can choose to assign it to everybody, or I can choose it on a order by order basis if I know certain people are more busy. So if I just pick these, mark them as released, I've now released those 3 orders to now be picked by myself, for instance. So that's some of the manager side of it, where you can have control over the wave. So if you want to release certain orders, if there's certain priorities on certain orders, you want to release them, you can use it in this view, or you can use it in a desktop view, depending on how the warehouse manager, for instance, might be working, or you can keep it super simple and just allow people to pick an order from the list of orders to be sent out that are due to be sent. Regardless, what you end up with is you end up with, under the picking side, you end up with 3 different options for this demo today. So single order picking, multi-order picking, and staging. So we go to single order picking. That's then going to show me all my orders that I've set up to be single order picked. And I've got a couple on here, and my other 3 that I picked aren't on here because they were set for multi-order picking. But let's just pick this bottom one as an example. So that's then going to take me into this screen where I can see the different item or items that I need to pick. In this case, it's just a generic GNS item that I've got. And for each of the items, it's showing me the availability of where that stock is. So I've got stock in these different warehouse areas, warehouse bins that have been set up in the system. And as I said, there's multiple ways of dealing with this. I can scan an item first, like I said, scan the item or barcode, scan the bin, and then it'll select it automatically, or I can go through and I can select the line that I know I want to pick. If I'm selecting it myself, you'll get this little warning that says you've gone through it manually. Let's just make sure you're picking the right item. So confirm it. So in this case, I'm just going to type the item in, but I would normally scan the barcode for the item which the system can generate. You would then scan the bin and where you're getting the stock from. In this case, if I don't know the bin, I can then just go, okay, well, that's where the stock is. Let's go to SS1 and confirm that. That's then going to make sure we've got availability, just to double check. Every single stage we're just double checking. I can then scan a batch, and then I actually get rid of my space. Scan a batch that will be available. That's showing me there should be 187 available of that batch that I've selected there. Well, I only need 1, so I can just submit that and make that nice and simple. At the top, it's just showing me a total counter of everything that's going on. Because this order only had 1 item to pick, it's then just giving me a confirmation going, okay, you've got nothing else to pick. You want to go pick more things because you might have a basket, a trolley, for instance, or do you want to take it to the next stage? If I go back to the next stage, that's then going to allow me to move this to staging. So what we've said is physically, I've gone around the warehouse and I've picked an item, for instance. I now need to put in an area for it to be packed. And then from there, it can be picked up. So I've got 2 packing areas set up. I can pick packing area 1. I can see everything that I fully picked, or I can include partially picked ones that I'm not fully done with, but maybe my trolley, etc. is full. And then I can stage all and push them to that section. So it'll all move into packing area 1. That can then be picked up in the system and then automatically packed, shipped, etc. And at every single stage, you're getting those little confirmation pop-ups, little warnings to make sure users are always kept up to date. But that information then goes back into the system in real time. Everything you do is tracked, it's audited, it's kept up to date with the system in real time itself. If we go back and we have a quick look at multi-order picking, so if I go back to the home page, picking and then multi-order picking, the difference this time, instead of it showing me a list of orders, it's just going to show me a list of items instead. And as I said, it's not going to say which sales order it's for. It's more just going to be, okay, I've got a list of products. Let's start going to pick them. In this case, none of these are available, but if they did, they would have the bins against them. And then I could go through and follow the same process. So the idea is that the mobile users are interacting with the system in real time. The information is going back into the core NetSuite platform in real time. And then users can see that information on both sides and track how it's going. And if I need to, I can then release more orders, allow them to be shipped, etc. So that's covering so far our bottling, our cask sales, a little bit around storage and some PDFs, and then a quick view on Domesco, our mobile solution, and how that can be used to potentially manage the shipping side of it. And as I said, it handles a lot of other things around receiving, container management, your spirit production, etc. If we go back into the system and have a look at one of the last elements around duty and LPA reporting. So we've touched on this a little bit already as we've gone through the system. As we saw in our sales order, we've got the estimated LPA, we had the estimated duty depending on the item itself. And we have various reports around duty along with tracking payable transactions. We've got LPA reports around movements in, movements out, gains and losses at every single process, adjustments, etc. All down to the actual duty rates as well within the system that it's using to determine how much duty needs to be paid. What this allows us to do is to generate the standard duty reports that you have to, so the W5, the W5D, the W1, the W21 from the system itself with all that information. And it also gives you the information you'll need for APA if you're using APA instead of the W5 itself. But for now, I've got the system set up for W5, W5D. So if I go to Bottle ERP, Duty, W5, and open that up, that's going to show me a list of transactions that are pending duty payment. So I haven't prepaid them. They've not been paid at point of bottling. They're getting paid as soon as I ship them out because I bottled them or got them bottled, and then I'm now paying the duty on them as they're going out. And this could be calling off a prepayment account. This could be paying them directly. Really depends how you want to do it. But as soon as it leaves that bubble and it's duty payable, it will then show up on this. If it's a sales order, if it's a transfer of stock, it doesn't really matter. It'll show on here. And for every transaction that is linked, that is classed as duty payable, it will show you all the key information around the ship date, the type, the customer, if it's customer related, the type of product itself, all the way down to the LPA, the duty, and the duty rate itself that's been applied. You also do have hyperlinks to those transactions that you can open up from there. So let's select one transaction as an example and go to the review selection screen. On here, I would then make my payment to HMRC, in this case, £77.12. If it's a prepayment account, I would then just put my prepayment account in. In this case, I'm simulating as if we're actually just going to make a payment. I can put my bank account in. I get an overarching submission table that you would see if you're doing it manually, and then I can put in a payment reference to that as well. What I can then do is I can submit this straight from NetSuite and Bottle ERP directly to HMRC's portal, because we support the W5, the W5D as a direct integration, and we also support EMCS as well through the system itself. What that's going to do is it's going to generate me a duty payment record, which hides all the key information around what I've selected. So it's got a overarching status, it's who submitted it, my total LPA, and my total duty, along with the different accounts I've selected, the sequences, the location, and the payment reference. Give this a second to process. What it's going to do is it's going to go through and link everything together. So for audit purposes, it's going to go through and update that fulfillment. So if we have a look at that fulfillment record, we can see it's linked under duty payment lines. So we open that up, we'll be able to see that the system is now tagged duty payment 1091 against it, and it's marked as paid. So it's marked as paid under there, and then it's also giving me the duty payment reference as well. So I've got the link to it for any transaction that is controlled underneath this one payment. That will then send the request to HMRC using the integration, which then HMRC will send the reference number back with the status of pending until it's approved on the system itself. This is linked to the test account, so I'd have to trigger it, but all that information, the audit logs of everything, is all automatically shown under there, along with the submission and the information that's sent. So every single stage in the process, you always have key bits of information to allow you to see what's happening, if it is automated, why it's automated, and what information it's using. But if it's manual, what the next stage might be and how to progress with it as well. So that pretty much covers everything we were going to go through today around sales, going through WMS Go, some PDF elements, LPA, and duty. Thank you for your time. Back to you, Sam.
Thank you very much, Imad. Thank you very much. Let me just share. Yeah, okay.
Yep, that's cool.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It's not. And on to the questions and answers. So we've had a few questions come through. So Imad, we are currently rely heavily on spreadsheets to track customer storage and movements. How easy is it to migrate all of that data into Bottle ERP without losing accuracy or creating gaps in our records?
So yeah, you can import a lot of your information in the system. So we import with CSV Excel all the time for all our customers. You can imagine it's quite a common thing. We've been running an old system for a couple of years, and what do we do? How do we bring in all our open casks? How do we bring in the casks that we started filling 18 years ago, for instance, and bring that information in, as well as the history? All that can be brought in, and there's various processes that we work with our customers with to bring that into the system.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And we've got one other question here. So duty and LPA reporting is a real headache for us, especially when HMRC requirements change, for example, APA. Does Bottle ERP adapt to those changes, and how much control do we have to customize the reporting ourselves?
So two different questions, I guess. One round reporting and one round HMRC and them liking to change the rules every so often. So in terms of the rule change, so we support that. So if the base rules or the base reporting needs to change, we would update the platform for all our customers. It's not something that our customers ever need to worry about. We would make sure that the system is compliant with the latest rules as far as we can get, such as APA. So you'd always have the latest and greatest in the system. That's not something you would have to worry about. In terms of reporting in general, not just ready duty, it's very configurable. You can choose exactly what you want to report on. It's very click and drag. You can have visualizations around graphs. You can have pivot tables built directly in. There's lots of breadth there to get that information. And because everyone's working on one system, you're not worrying about manual data duplication errors where someone's copied it from one system to another. Or actually, there still is put in their production information on a paper sheet. Now someone's got to copy it. Well, no, they would do it directly into the system. Same with sales and shipments. Everything is live, linked and audited. So you can get that information live, linked and audited again, back in whatever format you want.
Excellent. Any other questions from the floor? Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much to all of you for taking the time. Here are my contact details if you'd like to drop me an email or give me a call, and no hesitation to have a good catch up, and we can have a good chat about distilleries. Thank you very much for your time, guys.
Thanks, everyone.